How we doing, everybody? Good. You guys are great. I love having you guys here this morning. I'm happy to be here. We are in our Transform series. We're going through 7 weeks, 7 different areas of our lives that we're seeking God's transformation in our hearts and in our minds and in our souls. And so this week we're going to continue that forward. I got to be real honest with you. If you don't have a Transform journal yet, there's still time. You can get it at the store and be a part of that. There's fantastic devotions in there. There's a daily guide in that. There's small group guides. There's a space for today's sermon notes, all that sort of stuff in there. You can grab it and jump in and be a part of that. But today we're going to carry on with the idea of relational health. And before we do, I just want to share some stories that I've had in this last week. Just this last week, I had 2 different moms tell me the same story. This is great. Where they were driving their car this week and got a little bit heated while they were driving. Maybe somebody cut them off, maybe something like that. And they had a kid from the back seat tell them, "Mom, did you hear what Dave talked about in church last week?" And they had to get their emotions in check. 2 people told me this story. This is fantastic that kids were listening and paying attention. So hopefully you were too, and growing and taking next steps. I had somebody else approach me who the first time ever they prayed and asked God to show up in their lives because of this series, and they've been working through that, and God not only answered their prayer once, but answered 3 times throughout the week. Like, that's so good that God's doing that and showing up and transforming. And honestly, just showing himself off, which is fantastic. I love those stories. We also had somebody else who reached out to me this week who, because of what Jesus is doing in their life, felt compelled to share the story, the gospel, with a friend of theirs. And they got to share the gospel for the first time this week because of the ways that God is transforming them. And it's so fun to watch. It's so fun to be a part of. I hope you are taking next steps, and I hope today helps you to take one in your relational health. But that's where we're going to go. If you have the journal on the front cover, it says the verse that's guiding this whole 7 weeks. It's from Romans 12:2. It says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That we don't want to conform to the world around us. We want to be transformed into the image of Jesus as we grow and become better disciples. Today, as we talk about relational health, I think it's important that we talk about this because, honestly, I'm a nerd. You guys know this if you've been around. I like studying things. I like doing research. I like doing all of that. The American Sociological Review said that the average American right now has 2 close friends. 2 close friends. That doesn't seem like a lot of close friends, but it also kind of checks out all at the same time. 2 close friends, and 25% of Americans say that they have none. They don't have a best friend in their life. They don't have a close friend in their life, which is fascinating because we live in a day and age where we're all over social media. We have more friends than ever. We have likes for days. We have all of this, yet statistically, we are the loneliest culture that America's ever experienced. When we're surrounded by people, both digitally and physically, we're still completely isolating ourselves from time to time. Maybe you've got relational tension. Maybe this week spurred up some relational tension in you and some friendships. It was a big week, and an election happened. I don't know if you guys were aware, but that happened in this last week, and some people got really tense one way or the other. It happens on both sides of the equation. But here's the deal. As followers of Jesus, we are called to represent something different than the world around us, which means when we talk about relational health and how we interact with each other, it really matters. And right now, it really matters. You have the opportunity to show Jesus to people all around you by the way that you live, by the way that you love, by the way that you talk to people. So there's all sorts of tension in that. But in our lives, we all have relationships. Every one of us has relationships. In fact, I think there's 3 different types of relationships that I think we all have in our lives. 3 different types of people in our lives. We have fans, we have foes, and we have friends. And I'm willing to bet there's a person that popped up in your head the moment I said each one of these. Now, we like fans. Fans are the people in our lives who just keep telling us all the great things that we do, and they fill you up. They breathe life into your soul. It's exciting to have a friend or a fan who just tells you you are God's gift to this world. I'm so grateful for you. You are the best thing that's ever happened in my life. You're the kindest person. Your breath smells constantly like roses, and everywhere you go, it just turns to gold. These people are wonderful to have in your life, to have a fan like this. Unfortunately, if you have too many of these or you get too much of this, what happens? Right? Like, I'm going to stop before that point because I don't want to trigger anything. Maybe in your life you can understand the idea of a foe. A foe isn't somebody who breathes life into you. They're the person who takes it right out of you. You, right now, I am a foe to some of you. They're the people who it doesn't matter what you do, you've never done enough, you're not good enough, you're not right, you're the worst person in the world, even when you're trying to do something good. They're the person that whether they're slowly draining the life out of you or they just... That was a good one. I'm glad that's on film because I'm going to watch that later. Maybe you have a foe in your life that you can think of. Friends are the best kind of all of these because friends are the people who can breathe life into you and make you better, and then you get to turn around and breathe life into them and make their life better. There's an in and there's an out. There's a give and a take where you can breathe life. You can make them better and they make you better, where they can give you strength when you need it, and you can give them strength when they need it. Somebody who can tell you the truth when you need to hear it, and somebody who you can tell the truth to when they need to hear it. Like, friends make the world go round. We could talk about friends all day long. Let me give a couple of quotes that I love about friendship. This one's from Robert Bloch. It's my absolute favorite friendship quote. Friendship is like peeing in your pants. Everyone can see it, but only you can feel the warm feeling inside. Isn't that heartwarming? Well, it's warming of some sort, you know? Okay, maybe a better quote comes from Craig Groeschel, who says, "Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future." Turns out we become like the people we spend time with, so our friendships matter, our relationships matter. Maybe you're here and you can understand that because we were never made to do life alone. You know that full well because you've tried and it doesn't work. I don't even care if you're a follower of Jesus in the room, you know this to be true. Every one of us knows this to be true. Life is too hard to do alone. But here's the deal. As a follower of Jesus, when you're trying to deal with temptation and overcome sin and hurt and heartache in your life, all things spiritual, you need help. You can't do it alone. And that's why Peter puts it this way in 1 Peter 4:8. It says, "Above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins." If there's a verse to help guide your relationships, to guide your friendships, this is it. To love each other deeply because love covers over a multitude of sins. When the Bible uses the word sins, it's the idea of the things that separate us from God. It's the things that we do that are counterproductive. They're the things that take us away from God's presence. They're the things that go against his word, the things that go against his teachings and his leadings that we see through the person of Jesus. When we live like that, we live in a hurt, in a broken place. But when we have somebody who can love us deeply, it covers over a multitude of sins. It doesn't mean that it makes the sins disappear. It's not saying that we just throw a blanket over it and pretends it doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't mean we look at each other and go, "It's fine, you just keep doing that, I'm going to love you anyway." It's saying that we are to love each other the way that Jesus loved us, who met us in that mess and pulled us out. The guy who can love you despite all of your flaws, all of your pain, all of your hurt, all of your heartache, all of your mess, and take you somewhere better. In fact, I know this to be true because in this verse it says, "Love each other deeply." And the word love there in the original language is the word agape, which is the word that's used to describe God's love to us. That his love that is unconditional. It doesn't matter what you do. He loves you regardless. Not because you did something and you've earned it, not because you are the greatest person in the history of the world, but because he loves you as you are. And he carries you forward. And he loves you so much that he sent his son. Maybe you've heard the story before. Maybe you need to hear it for the first time. He loves you so much that he sent his son to this earth to live a perfect life that none of us could ever live. And ultimately, he died on the cross to take the penalty of our sins, to give us freedom, to give us hope, to take us out of a pit of despair. Maybe you felt that feeling of depression and darkness, and to carry you somewhere with hope, with an eternal life. That's the gift of Jesus that's shared throughout all of the Bible. It's a gift of love from a God who loves you. And when we love each other in a deep, loving relationship, the idea is that we meet each other right in that mess. We're not afraid to get in there and to love somebody well and help lead them forward, to make their life better, to make them look more like Jesus, to help them to see what Jesus looks like by the way that we love them. In just a couple of weeks, we're going to have baptisms right up here, right in front of the stage. And I love baptism Sundays at Thrive. They're my favorite to celebrate, and we cheer people on. But it is this picture of somebody being buried and raised to new life in the image of Jesus, to be made new, to be washed clean, to take those sins and go, "No more. I'm walking forward with Jesus." And we've got people who are signed up to do that already. If you want to do that, if you're ready to take that transforming step to be baptized, stop by the Next Steps table. Let us know online. We're going to celebrate with you. We're going to have fun doing that. But we all need friends in our lives who can take us from where we are into a better place, to help us look more like Jesus, to show us what Jesus looks like by that love. You need a friend like that. Every one of us needs a friend like that. But one friend, all it takes, one friend can dramatically change your story. One friend can dramatically change your story. I was talking to somebody this week who I had the pleasure of sitting down with, and we were just chatting, and he was telling me the story of his life over the last few months. And he was in a really, really dark place of depression. And he found himself in a situation where he was homeless and living out of his car. And there's an incredible couple here at this church who hired him, gave him a job, ended up giving him a place to stay, helping him get on his feet, then brought him to church and helped him understand what faith is all about. And over the last few months, he's been asking questions of faith, and he's been digging into faith, and he's taking steps of faith because he's looking for this hope of Jesus that can only be found by the person of Jesus. And that happened because one couple decided, I'm going to invest in this. And in a pivotal moment, we can clap for that. In a pivotal moment, they met somebody who needed the hope of Jesus and showed it. That's what that verse looks like in real life. I've had friends like that in my life. I've had other friends who I just sit down and I share coffee with, and I soak up as much wisdom from them as I can. I try to learn always. And I had one friend many years ago who looked at me and said, Dave, your number one job should be to add value into others. And that phrase stuck with me. And it's honestly become one of the mantras I carry with me in my leadership, that I want to be somebody who adds value. Whether I'm standing up on a stage in front of people, or I'm sitting face to face with somebody, or I'm just walking through life with somebody, I want to add value to the relationships I have. That wisdom came from a friend. We're going to look today at a guy named David, which if you've been around this year, we went through the story of David. We looked at 1 Samuel and 2 Samuel, and we read together through the story of David. If you weren't around, I'm going to catch you up as we go. But I want to look at David as an example in relational health, because David has some friends around him that made him better. David was successful. David was an incredible king. David was a man after God's own heart, but David didn't do all of that alone. He had some incredible people around him. So we're going to look at that, and we're going to ask the question, what are these friends doing, and how are they adding value? And so if you've got your journal with you, if you're taking notes, this is prime moment right here. We all need friends like this. So here's the first one. Friends who add value. The first one is this: a friend who makes you better. We all need a friend who makes you better. If you want to look at the story of David, here's what's happened. A guy named Saul was king, but he did some things wrong, and God said, you can't be king anymore. I'm going to anoint a new king. And so he sends a prophet named Samuel to the house of Jesse. All of Jesse's sons were there. It's like they were lined up, almost like, we're identifying in a mugshot or something. This is how I picture it. They're all just lined up waiting. And Samuel comes down, and he's like, okay, I think this is going to be the guy. And God's like, no, that's not your guy. Okay, got it. So he moves over. I think this is no, that's not the guy. And he moves over until he gets to David at the very end. And this is what happens. 1 Samuel 16, 12 to 13, the Lord said to Samuel, rise and anoint him. This is the one. So Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the presence of his brothers. And from that day on, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David. Samuel looked into this man, and the Lord spoke, and the Lord said, the man looks at outward appearance, but I look at the heart. And in that moment, Samuel saw something in David that no one else could see. Have you ever had those people in your life who can look at you and see something in you that no one else can see? Who can look at you and go, I see potential. I see God's Spirit. I see a leading. I see a challenge. I see an opportunity. I see in you this. And then they help bring it out of you. Have you ever had those people in your life? I had one guy who invested in me very early in my ministry career. Actually, it was first getting started. The guy's name was Matt. And Matt was that guy for me. Matt was the guy who looked at me and said, listen, it's obvious you have leadership skills and leadership potential. You're already working on that, but I think God's got something in ministry for you. And I looked at him and I laughed and I said, not a chance. I don't want to be a pastor. You can obviously tell where that landed. And Matt didn't just say that he saw potential in me, that he saw an opportunity. Matt actually walked alongside me. and he coached me, and he counseled me, and he gave me an opportunity, and he kept investing in me, and he kept investing in me. One of the things I was worst at that time was I was really, really bad at boundaries. I said yes to everything, and it caused me a lot of hurt and heartache because I did too many things all at the same time. And so he challenged me. He said, Dave, you got to say no to something every day. And I took that to heart. So when he came to my office the next day, he said, Dave, have you said no to anything today? And I said, no. Now I have. Because I hadn't, honestly, at that point. And I learned and I grew, and Matt helped me and he counseled me and he coached me. We all need somebody like that in our life who can make us better, who can make you the best version of yourself, the most like Jesus version of yourself that you can possibly be. Let me ask you this of your friends. Do your friends make you better? Do your friends make you better? Do your little clique, your coworkers at work make you better? Does your Friday night crew make you better? Does your friend circle, your inner circle, do they make you better? And I don't just mean like better, like you're a better bowler because you're on the league with Tim. I mean like, do they make you better at the things that matter most? Do they make your faith better? Do they make your financial health better? Do they make your marriage better? Do they make you a better parent? Do they make you a better person, a better follower of Jesus? Do they make you better? It matters who you surround yourself with. As Christians, we are called to love everyone. But we have this incredible privilege where we get to choose those closest to us. And you need to choose carefully who you let be closest to you, because it's nearly impossible to live the right way with the wrong friends. You become like those you spend time with, whether you like it or not. It's nearly impossible to live the right way with the wrong friends. In fact, Paul puts it this way in 1 Corinthians. He says, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. And he's right. So, do your friends make you better? Do they make you better? We all need friends who make us better. But you know what? We also need to be friends who make others better. So it goes both ways. Relationships always go both ways. Do you make your friends better? Do they make you better? Here's another one. You need a friend who makes you better. You also need a friend who can help you find spiritual strength. You need a friend who can help you find spiritual strength. This is what happens in David's story. David continues on. He's still not king yet, but he's winning war after war. He becomes a champion. He becomes a hero. All of a sudden, there's this flock, this gaggle of women surrounding him everywhere he goes, and they're singing songs about him that Saul has killed his thousands, but David has killed his tens of thousands. And I'd imagine it was probably a rap because it made King Saul really mad. And raps make everyone mad. And so it's just why do you listen to that? You know, but I'm kidding, kind of. But Saul gets really mad that they're just all wooing over David. David's having all the success. David is clearly God's anointed, the next one for the throne, and Saul doesn't want that. And so Saul gets so mad he decides he's going to have David killed because that's the only way to solve this problem, at least in his mind. It was the only way to solve that problem. And so this is what happened. While David was in Horesh in the desert of Ziph, he learned that Saul had come out to take his life. And Saul's son Jonathan went to David at Horesh and helped him find strength. Well, that'd be great to have somebody help you find strength, except it's even better than that because he helped him find strength in God. A source of strength that's beyond our abilities, that's beyond human capabilities. In that moment, David didn't have strength. David was on the run. He was trying to save his life. And God, right there, was with him, was giving him strength through the friend of Jonathan. Jonathan was able to meet him in that and to offer a strength that he needed. Maybe you have a moment where you're just feeling alone and you need somebody to be there with you, where you're feeling hurt and you need to be comforted, where you're feeling dark and depressed and you need somebody to show up with a sleeve of Oreos and to just speak scripture into your life. Or maybe a donut or two, or a chocolate chip cookie, or really, I could be persuaded with most things. But to speak some life and some encouragement and to share God's truth with you. Like we need that in our lives. We need those people. I don't care how mature you are in your faith. You will have moments when you're tempted. You will have moments when you fall. You will have moments when you're depressed. You will have moments when you hurt. You need a friend who can help you find spiritual strength. I am very fortunate. I have one of those in my friend Matt Moore. Matt is one of those guys who I've gotten to do ministry with for the last 10 plus years. And it's been a game changer for me because there's some days where I do ministry and I come home and I wonder, is it worth it? Because it hurts and it's hard. And sometimes people aren't very kind. And sometimes you feel like, I don't know if you know this about our staff, but our staff wears their heart on their sleeves with everything that they do. And they give 100% every day. And there are times where we give everything that we've got, and then we're met with feedback of, well, it wasn't enough. It wasn't good. You're not right. You're not good enough. You're not this and this. And I carry that very personally. And there are moments where it just hurts. It hurts. But I'm very grateful for a friend like Matt who can meet me in that, who can remind me that I don't carry it alone. It's not a one-man burden. And he'll literally put his arm around me, and we'll stand up together, and we'll face it. You need a friend like that who will then also send you a questionable meme afterwards to make you laugh. That's my friend Matt. You need those people. You need people who offer you strength. You need people who help you see that Jesus has still got you, that he is with you, that he is for you, that you do have what it takes because you have the strength of the Lord with you everywhere you go. As a follower of Jesus, you have the Spirit of God with you everywhere you go. You got that strength, but sometimes you need a friend to help you see that. And you need a friend to encourage you. You need a friend like that. You need a friend like Jonathan who can give you strength when you need it most. But you know what? You also need to be that blessing to somebody else. There's somebody around you who needs you to be that blessing for them. Be that blessing. Be a friend like Jonathan, somebody who helps you find spiritual strength. Here's another one that was around David. You need a friend who will tell you the truth. You need a friend who tells you the truth. David was a man after God's own heart. David was blessed beyond blessed. David had so much going for him. He had a kingdom. He had the throne. He had everything he could ever want. And his eyes were fixed on the Lord until he saw Bathsheba. Then they were fixed on something else. And David made a big whoops. And David had an affair with Bathsheba. And in an effort to cover it up, he had Bathsheba's husband killed. And then brought her over to be his new wife. And the story continues, and it wasn't until we meet a guy named Nathan that something happens. And Nathan wasn't afraid to tell him the truth. Nathan, in fact, knew David was an emotional man, and the best way to get to an emotional man is to tell a good story, right? And so he met with him, and he said, David, there's this man who is wealthy beyond all wealth. He had lambs on lambs on lambs, like he was loaded with lambs. And David's like, okay, cool. And he said, and then he had a guest come over to his house. And it was time to feed him. And instead of taking one of those lambs and preparing it for his guest, he went out to his neighbor's field who only had one lamb. And he took that lamb and he prepared it for the guest. And David's like, what? How could anyone do that? That's ridiculous. In fact, it says this in 2 Samuel. It says, David burned with anger against the man. And he said to Nathan, as surely as the Lord lives, the man who did this must die. And then Nathan turned to him and said, David, you are that man. Like he meets David in this moment. David has this huge emotional response because he understands that the story is not about this little lamb. The story is actually about him taking something that wasn't his, that belonged to somebody else. And now all of a sudden he has this moment in him where he has to decide what to do. In fact, if you want to see his reaction, it's Psalm 51. It's his reaction to Nathan calling him out. And it's an incredible psalm that is honestly really relatable in many different ways because we all have these moments. You need somebody in your life who can speak truth to you. Somebody who you love, somebody who loves you and can look at you and can shake you and tell you, knock it off. Somebody can look at you and say, hey, listen, buddy, you're being stupid. That's not a good decision. That's not going to take you somewhere you want to go. That's not God's best for your life. You need somebody like that who can get real close to you in your face and say, listen, they said roses, it smells like garlic. Here's a mint, okay? You need a friend like that. You need a friend who can speak those truth moments to you honestly. Somebody who can look at you and not just say what everyone else is willing to say, but give you that last 10% that nobody else is willing to say. You need a friend like that in your life. And not just anybody. You don't just need everybody doing this in your life. You need somebody who you know, somebody who loves you well and has great intention behind it. Somebody who cares. In my life, this is my best friend. This is my wife, Stephanie, who is not willing to let me hear anything other than the truth when I need it. And I mean that in a kind, loving, respectful, gracious, humble way. Like when I am just beyond frustrated with what's going on in the world around me, or what's going on at work, or what's going on in the different things that are happening, she can help cut through all of that clutter to help me see, no, this is what's going on, and can speak that truth into my life. Or when I'm down and hurt and depressed, she can speak the truth of what's actually good and going on around me that I can't see because I'm so clouded with the negativity. Or honestly, also on the other side, when I'm really proud of all the great things that I've done, she can look at me and remind me that I didn't do it by myself, and there's a whole team of people supporting me that help make that possible, and I need to hear that. I need that. My wife is an incredible person like that. You need somebody like that in your life. You need somebody who can look at you and can speak the truth into your life. You also need to be that person for somebody else. In order to have a friend like that, you have to be a friend like that. So be somebody who can speak truth into somebody's life, the truth of Jesus, the truth of the gospel, the truth of the story that matters, the story that changes everything. All it takes is one person. One friend can dramatically change your story. So invest well in that friendship and be that type of friend to somebody. Be that person for somebody around you. We all need people like that. You may be one friend away from a radical transformation in your life. You may be one friend away from a better marriage, a stronger financial situation. You may be one friend away from a destructive decision that you've allowed to get in front of you. You may be one friend away from a life-changing relationship with Jesus. You need people like this in your life. So here's my challenge for us all this week. Find friends who add value to your life and be a friend who adds value to others. It's a two-way street. Everything about relationships is a two-way street. So find friends who can add value to your life and be that friend to somebody else. If you're here and you're not part of a small group community, get into a small group community. Small group communities will change your life. I know for a fact in my small group there are people who will help when I'm feeling weak. There are people who will tell the truth when I need to hear it, and there are people who will make me better. It happens every week in our small group. I want that for you. So stop by the Next Steps table. Let us know online. Get invested into a small group. Maybe you're here and the relationship you truly need in your life to see transformation is a relationship with Jesus himself, because you know that that's the only way your heart's going to change. If that's you, would you fill out this Connect card behind me? Use that QR code or on the chairs in front of you. Let us know, because we want to walk with you through that. Maybe you've got a prayer request or a friendship that's hurting, struggling right now that you need prayer for. Let us know on that. Stop by the prayer table. But don't leave without taking a step toward transformation. Maybe you need to get baptized in a couple of weeks. Let us know on that. Stop by the table. We're going to walk with you. We're going to cheer you on. But let's be people who lead well with great relational health and show the world the love of Jesus firsthand by covering for each other. Let's pray. God, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity we have to love and to serve and to care for one another. God, I thank you that you did not create us to do life alone. It's too hard. And I thank you for surrounding us with people who can walk forward with us. For those in this room, God, who need a friend to lead them forward, I pray that you surround them with the right person at just the right moment. Lead them closer to your heart. For those in this room who have the opportunity to be a blessing to those around them, their friendships that they value so dearly, God, I pray that they would be people who make others better, that they would be people who offer your strength when it's needed, and that they would be people who can speak the truth in love, in the way that we need to hear at the right moment. God, would you grow us in that? Help us to be stronger friends, better disciples, better followers of you by the way that we love one another. And I pray that the world around us sees the way we love each other and sees you clearly through that. And we put this all in your hands. We ask your transforming work in Jesus' name. Amen.